My name is John Dawson, and I'm doing a video today on how to fix your two-dimensional artwork in Photoshop Elements. You should probably start with the taking of the initial photograph. If your camera has white balance settings, you should probably take a photo of each of the settings to see which one works best for your particular lighting situation. Down here in this photo well, I have 5 different examples of 5 different white balance settings. The very first one is the auto setting, and it's actually pretty good. Wouldn't need very much correction. The second one is the first of 3 fluorescent white balance settings. It's not very good at all. It's very yellow. The second one is also a fluorescent light balance setting, and it's pretty good. Very little correction needed. The third one is almost as good as the second one, but not quite as good. Needs a little bit of correction. And the last one is incandescent light balance setting, which is light bulb setting. It's really bad and would need a lot of work. These are all taken under fluorescent lighting, so the incandescent setting really isn't appropriate for it anyway. Since we're doing this to show you how to fix these, we're going to get rid of the better ones. Number 3, number 2, and the auto setting. And we'll start with this one, which is the number 1 of the fluorescent light balance settings. And it's, as you can see, pretty yellow. This is very common. If you don't have a camera with white balance settings, it's very likely to come up with a yellow cast. To fix that, we would go up to Enhance, down to Adjust Color, and to remove Color Cast. The version of Photoshop Elements that I'm using is version 15. It's the latest version. If you can find it and your computer will support it, the very best version is version 2. It doesn't have their terrible organizer, which is a big waste of both computer space and time. And it's the easiest to use. Some Windows 7 operating systems will still support it, and it's the one that I use most often. I pin up a piece of white paper next to the painting before I photograph it. Then we take this little eyedropper and you click on the white paper, and it will get rid of the yellow color cast. Now, if you don't like the way it looks or didn't do it properly, which sometimes happens, you can hit reset and you can do it over. In this case, it's not bad. It could use some further adjustment, but we'll get to that a little later. So we'll say OK. So we'll go to the incandescent photo, and it is very blue color cast. We're going to do the same thing, and you'll see quite a dramatic change in this case. So we'll go up to Enhance, to Adjust Color, remove Color Cast, and we'll do the same thing. We'll click the little eyedropper on the white paper, and you can see it comes back to almost the correct colors and lighting of the original. Still needs a little bit of adjustment. So we'll click OK. To make other color adjustments, you go up to Enhance, to Adjust Color, to Hue and Saturation. And we're going to get a dialog box that has 3 little categories here. One is hue, saturation, and lightness. Hue affects the color. If we have master set up here, if you go to the left, it's going to increase the warmer colors. If you go to the right, it'll increase the cooler colors. It'll actually turn it green here in a minute. And if I was fixing this particular piece, I would probably just do a little bit to to the left to increase some of the warmer colors. Well, let's take it back to where it was. You can also affect the colors individually. However, this has very unpredictable effects. This is, if you move it to the left, it should decrease the yellows. Move it to the right, it should increase the yellows, and we'll try that and we'll see what happens. You can see it's decreasing that yellow, I guess, and causing it to be more red, and increasing the yellows here and causing it to be more green. Now let's try another one. Let's try magenta, and this is very unpredictable. You would think that it would make it more rosy, more red. We'll decrease it, move across. It turns it into a green color. Amazing. And then if you move it to the right, you'd think it would get more and more red, but more and more magenta. But look, it turns it green again. So the individual settings here can be very unpredictable. Sometimes they can be helpful for very minor adjustments, but in using that, you'll have to be kind of a trial and error basis. Now we'll go back to the master. Now, saturation, if you move it to the right, it's going to get more and more saturated until it actually will turn into fluorescence. And if you move it to the left, it'll decrease the saturation until it becomes monochromatic, or almost black and white. Go back to the center. The third category is lightness. Now, this particular one, in terms of working on your artwork, really is not very useful. If you move it all the way to the right, it's going to turn completely white. All the way to the left, it's going to turn completely black. There is a much better control for doing that, and we're going to show you that right now. So, if you go back up to Enhance and down to Lighting, just Lighting, to Brightness and Contrast. Now the top button affects lightness and darkness. If you move it to the right, it's going to get lighter and lighter, and you move it to the left, it's going to get darker and darker. But it's a much more subtle change and a little more useful than the previous one in the color adjustment. This is the contrast. This is very useful. The contrast will also increase the sharpness of the color, and sometimes it's the only real adjustment you need. In this case, I don't think it's going to make a big difference, but we'll move it to the right, and you can see it made the rose color in the dress a little brighter, actually, and it's a little closer to the original. If you move it to the left, it's going to dull the colors a little bit, and it's not quite like the original now. So we'll move it back to the center, which is, and probably a little bit to the left, and that's okay. Okay, if we go up to the Windows button here, click on that and go down to History, we bring up this dialog box which shows all the different applications that you've made to this piece so far. I want to go back to Open so we can try something different and show yet another way to fix the colors in Photo Elements. If we go down to Adjust Smart Fix, you come up with this little dialog box. You can either move the slider, which will do various effects to whatever area that you think is best. or you can just press auto and it will give you the best effect. In this case, it took out a lot of the color cast and came up with a pretty good representation of this particular piece of artwork. Click OK. When you take the initial photograph, it's pretty hard to get it exactly square. So we're going to show you how to do that. First thing you need to do is to go and select the crop tool. When you select the crop tool, this dialog box comes up at the bottom. You'll have these various selections for cropping your piece, which are totally useless. If you get stuck on one of these, I believe the way to get out of it is to hit the crop tool a second time. You want to make sure this box that says none is checked, otherwise you're going to get a whole series of annoying grids that you don't need. And to get rid of this box, at least temporarily, is to click this little arrow here. However, every time that you go to crop anything, it's going to pop up continuously. You want to try and crop it as close as you can to the outer edges. And if you leaving some of the background areas in where it's not exactly square is fine, because we're going to fix that. We're going to crop this down as close as we can. This needs to go out just a little bit more. Okay, now we'll check the green check, and it's cropped. Have to get rid of the annoying box again. Now the next thing you need to do is to go Control A. That's A like an apple. You're going to come up with these little lines. Some programs call these marching ants. I don't know why they would want to refer to bugs in a computer program. In any event, I call them the dancing dashes. So next we go up to Image, to Transform, and to Skew. Now we have to get rid of one of these boxes again. Now you go to the very corner of the area that you want to make square. You have to get really right on this little dot here at the corner, and you pull it over. In this case, it'd be to the left to make that side square, and in this case to the right. You have to get right on it, otherwise it'll move the whole piece. And there we go. Now we check the little green check, and now we still have the dancing dashes going around. So you want to go Control D, D like in dog. Now, as you can see, we still have some areas that are not completely square and some background still showing. The best way to get rid of that is to either do the whole process over again or to crop it again. Now, when you crop it again, it used to be that you could hold down the Control key and get a much closer crop. I don't think they have that feature anymore in these later versions, which is too bad. So the next thing you would naturally do is to do another crop. It's at least one of the two ways you can do this to get rid of the background. And we get the annoying box again, have to get rid of that. And we're going to do this very quickly so it doesn't take a lot of time to just move a little bit over here and probably at the top. A little bit. In any event, this is probably good enough for our purposes. You see what you need to do, and you just hit the check again. Now it's ready to print. Photoshop Elements used to have probably the best print package of any of these programs, but they've changed it, and now it's very difficult. It's really pretty much of a mess. We start out with, we go up here to File, to Print. As you can see, It comes up in a totally different form because it's set for 4:6. It's cropped it around the edges. You can change that by doing this, changing these sizes if you wanted it. Well, it's still cropped wrong. And then they have this clever little thing which does this, whatever that's supposed to do. Then you can also move it like that, which is totally stupid. Who would want to print their photos like that? Go to 8:10, and now at least the proportions are correct. If you go down here to custom, they have these numbers here you can change, but they're not constrained. If you change one number, it doesn't change the other. It's to be proportional, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'll leave that the way it is. The way it used to be was much better, and this is an example of that.
Okay, this is the print package in version 7, Photo Elements version 7. And as you'll see, it's much easier to use. If you want to change the size, you just take the little arrow here and make it bigger or smaller, however you would like it. If you want a specific size, you just type it in here. We'll go 5.3. And as you can see, they're constrained, so it keeps the proportions. If you want to move it to another place on the page, just uncheck this. And you can move it wherever you would like to have it, whatever's convenient for your project. It's hard to understand why they would change this. It was so much better before, and what kind of a nincompoop would think up the change to begin with. I believe they changed it about version 10. So earlier versions are really much better.
Well, in many cases, you may want to print your photo at an odd size, something besides 4:6 or 5:7. Something that you may need to fit into a portfolio or to an ad or a catalog. In previous versions that was pretty easy, and these later versions it's a little more difficult, and I'm going to show you how to do that. First we have to get out of the print program, and we go over to image, to resize, to image size. And then in these boxes where it says width and height, you type in the exact size that you need. If it would be, for instance, 5.3 inches, you'll see that the boxes are constrained. That means it's going to keep the proportions when you close. So we'll say OK. Now we have to go back to print. And here where it says select size, go down to actual size. As you see, the actual size now is 5.3 by 5.98. And we select that. And now you have the photo at the actual size that you would need it for whatever purpose that you wanted to print this for. Now you notice the piece is in the center, and if you're going to print this and then trim it, it's a little easier if it's not in the center. You want to click on the blue box like that, I think. No, you don't want to do that. You have to click on the blue box. Sometimes there it goes. A little harder than it looks, and you can move it anywhere you want. Have to readjust this. Now you can print it like this, and then it's a little easier to trim. I personally use a paper cutter, and it makes it a little simpler if you move it up into one of the corners. With all the crazy things that they've done to these later versions, it does make you sort of wonder who they intend to sell them to. If all you wanted to do is edit vacation photos or family photos. There's a lot of cheaper programs than this expensive one, and in fact, most operating systems have simple photo editing programs that are free and are probably just as good for editing vacation photos. For any kind of professional use, it's really kind of a mess, and it's really too bad. Anyway, I have no intentions of printing this, so we'll hit cancel. Well, this pretty much concludes my video on how to fix two-dimensional artwork and photo elements. We'll follow this up with some before and after photos of my own work, and a web address for my web page and Facebook page.